Welcome to our pre-scene analysis for the integrated case study.
Congratulate all of you who have cleared your assignment carrying 20 marks, and you have now come to the final stage of your hurdle.
There is much focus on strategic management, financial management techniques in analyzing the case study. So in this combination of lecturers, co-lecturers, one of the unique things that you see, especially Dr. Niroshan has experience in finance management teaching for many years with his economics background and all other multidisciplinary qualification will really enable to do an in-depth analysis. Very important point that I want to spend few minutes. Why this subject is a challenge. I have personally seen students saying that I am doing case study for 3-4 times. Some smart students just without much effort they pass this. So what's the secret? These points are carefully thought out, and also I have gone through examiners' comment, including the latest comment, the latest paper, and you if you have a broader knowledge by looking at this case study, you will identify multiple issues. Later, you will use some model to analyze that. So issues, problems, and to be able to relate that. Now, based on these identification, you might say, okay, in this case, we can use SWOT or diamond theory because company is going for external, the global market, right? The most appropriate theory or framework can come. But you need to be open-minded to really see what are the aspects. But other thing is, if you are really rich in terms of these tools, it helps you to identify different sets of issues. Third point, that this says what? The fundamental matters. That's examiner has mentioned. I'll show you in the next slide, examiner's word. Now, one of the core area of being a chartered accountant to be brilliant in terms of technical knowledge and analytical skills, but examiner says sometimes these basic things students have failed. Specifically, you should have analytical skill, accounting standard or financial statement analysis, but that you can't use in isolation. That has to be looked at in the overall case study context, holistic analysis, where you can really look at qualitative aspects in a given scenario. So that means, like I earlier said, how do you connect numbers to the story of the business? I'll show you in the next slide one example for you to really understand. Don't look at numbers in isolation. Even numbers, sometimes you may miss certain things. I'll show you example to support this point in the next slide. Finally, very often, right? Been with students for last 20 years, especially last 10-15 years with strategic level, right? I have seen always students struggle, most students struggle in writing. So even when you become a chartered accountant, this is going to be one of the key area that you have to really develop. So therefore, it's very important to have your confidence. You can listen to lecturers. Finally, if you get stuck in writing, what can you do? So writing really matters. So therefore, the writing here means before writing, you need to be able to identify these other issues, present them in a logical way, right? Logical sequence. These are my arguments. And to be creative, you can do your own diagram and see this is how I have analyzed. The examiner will understand, wow, fantastic. That creativity is very important at this level because the case study gives you to decompose, to do a detailed analysis why GP has changed. What is the contribution in terms of efficiency? So like that, case study has given you to break GP margin into two components. This is the price element, price recovery part. This is the productivity part. So most students have failed to analyze this aspect and they haven't given the relevant calculation or done that. And what the important point here, through that GPA margin, it is simple working, but if you do only that working, you will not get the marks. The main point is how do you connect that to strategy, right? Now see this point. The focal point of the discussion is that students were expected to engage in the main crux of the strategic issue presented in the scenario, stemming from the drop in GP. So the GP drop, you should be able to connect to the business story, the strategic issue they are facing. That's the beauty of connecting numbers with the business story. And if you learn that part, definitely you are going to not only be a number cruncher, but to be a business acumen, right? So that's very, very important. And this comment is not only this particular paper, in general hold true in an integrated case study. And then another thing is weak subject matter knowledge. That's your preparedness, poor ability to understand the strategic issues. That's where this, you see, you can learn what is in the book, but from the case study are you able to identify the strategic issue and apply the relevant models and to interpret the results properly. Now I'll ask you a challenging question. You can write down an answer now. What is the purpose of using 5 forces? What? Can you quickly answer? If you can't, it's a model only. The 5 forces enable you to decide whether industry is attractive by looking those 5 aspects. Each of the aspects you should be able to interpret. Now, rivalry among existing players means what? What does it mean to you? How do you kind of identify from the case study whether there's a rivalry or not? So that is the application, right? Why he is rejecting SOT and saying, I want to know what the company wants to be doing. Now that is what in strategies. That's a big thing. Now any strategic analysis should begin with by looking at the vision of the company. A vision clearly says, now this is from your book. See the way it's worded. The vision is a statement of aspiration of what it wants to be in the future. And then the mission says that fundamentally what they want to do. Now with that context in your case study, it really says what the business domain and what they want to be. And this is what it is, right? They have given it below, above. This is a good guidance for the strategy. Now they say their vision is to become a leading power supplier to the nation, right? The lighthouse of the nation, responsible for the environment. Now, this is one of the guiding principles which is spelled out in their vision statement, that they are responsible for the environment. So, strategy has to be always guided by the mission, right? If you have a strategy which is going against with your mission, that leads to a strategic risk. For example, now nuclear project, if you really look at, I'll show you some of the research findings, that's going to have major environmental risk. So now, how can you be responsible for the environment if you're embarking on a project like that from a risk point of view? It doesn't. That strategy is not consistent with what company wants to do.
Pay attention to the role you have been assigned, right? So, first question, they might ask, as a consultant, do a feasibility study. So, your role is, you are a consultant. Think in that line, you are a consultant and write. Sometimes they might say, as a director of a company, how do you look at this proposal by X and Y? Then you are a director. You get into their shoes, get into their jacket, and think in that line, then only you can assess and give a good answer. Use the pre-scene to think about the sort of requirements you might be presented with and possible areas, right? So, at the same time they are saying there are few don'ts. By reading it, don't try to spend time trying to find what real life company it is. No use. These are all created scenarios, so you don't need to, whether you find it or not, it doesn't matter. You don't get any extra marks for that. Read lots of analysis of the pre-scene produced by others. There are others who have analyzed, including us. We may analyze and give it to you. You may read, but it is you who has to produce at the exam. So it is you who has to write, not us. So we can give you ideas. You need to absorb it. You need to work out, and really you need to write. So that is why our last session is supporting you to write your I can remember when I was a credit officer at a branch bank, 1997. I was a young chartered accountant at that time. There was a facility that came, 1997, have a wind power generation in Hambantota. Hambantota was not developed at that time. That was the lowest income earning district that time, 1997-98. So it was a good project. We were there to finance. So multiple approvals were required at that time. The promoters were sent from pillar to post, from place to place. And finally, all were through, but the environmental authority gave a ruling saying the location that they have selected is not suitable because in Sinhala they said Sankramanika Kurullan ena margayak. Sankramanika Kurullan ena margayak. This is a line that the birds will use. So as a result, not good to fix fans. As a result, the project was, so the investor went back. I think after so many years, I heard that there is a project that is going to happen in Hambantota. To be the principal, they want to be the principal. Synergy says, if you are going for nuclear, we should be the principal. We should be the principal company. And we need to hold 32% of the shares. That's their conditions. We will be designing, constructing, commissioning, scheduling, all that is done by us. And we will operate it for 30 years and we will exit. And they will have the licenses. Right? So license to operate a nuclear power plant is going to be with Synergy. That's their condition. There's another company in this connection, OPEC, in charge of plant export activities, manufacture electrical turbines. They will be doing the turbine manufacturing, support for thermal power plant, 30% stake, and exit in 20 years. They will be exiting in 30 years. They want to exit in 20 years. These are the complications that come in that consortium. Right? That need to be addressed, that you need to be mindful of that possible area of question for you to analyze the risk coming from that. Risk coming from they holding the license. When they move out, we will be losing the license. Right? Risk coming from one of the parties leaving early than 30 years. So what are the repercussions coming from that? Right? What is the continuity of this project? Is it a build, operate and transfer to government? Right? We need to evaluate those. Then the Power Mangi, another company, they are working on the boiler for thermal power plant, proposed 10%. They need to hold 10%. So as a result, collectively, they need to hold 72%. Balance can be held by the local party and 10% to be held by government. This is the proposal. Right? So we need to evaluate this proposal. Right? At the exam, most probably, I am just guessing that they will ask you as a consultant to make a consultation paper on feasibility of the nuclear investment, risk and rewards. So, possible question that I am guessing, right? They will give this scenario. Now you know the scenario, and they will be asking you to prepare a consultation paper identifying the feasibility of going for this project as the local partner, CHL. When you say unlevered beta, there is no debt in the portfolio, right? When you say levered beta, there is a combination of debt equity. Now this is where we are calculating WACC. So as a result, we have to take debt equity combination because there is a debt equity combination in this company. So therefore it is a levered plus beta. Levered beta is 1.24. This part is 5. So 11.9 plus